Get a £5 free bet every week with Offer Club from William Hill. Simply stake a total of £20 or more across the week on pre-match football accumulators with 4 or more selections, and you'll get a £5 free bet on the Friday. Join William Hill Offer Club on mobile or online now.
This is Gordon Cassis for Rifle TV in association with Macklin's Gym Marbella. It's Wednesday. I'm going to start time and dating these interviews because sometimes you say something and then it changes, like the circumstances change. So what's the time now? It's 5 minutes past 12. Wednesday the 2nd of November.
Correct.
With me I have Eddie Hearn. It seems like quite a long time since we've had a chance to catch up, and a lot has happened. Obviously, the main news today is that the WBA have sanctioned
Finally
the WBA super title for Joshua and Klitschko for some point next year.
next, after Molina.
Yeah. But has part of it come a little bit too late in some ways?
I don't think. I think, when you get a fight like that, once you start creeping into 7, particularly 6 weeks, and Vladimir, say had a career-threatening injury, but he had a niggle that meant that with everything that's going on, we want to push this fight back, and we agreed with Bernd Bonti. They wouldn't have been able to make a December 10 date. The fight wouldn't have been able to have the build-up it deserves, and we hadn't had the confirmation from the WBA. So the WBA, you've got to understand the process. Probably 6, 7, 8 fighters all scrambling, to get shots at Lucas Brown, to get the super title, etc., etc. So, for us to receive that notification from the legal team last night, that finally confirmation that Joshua Klitschko will be for the WBA super title in the spring was fantastic. We can now move forward. We've already been looking at venues the last couple of weeks for that fight anyway. And now we can go forward and, obviously AJ's got to beat Molina on the 10th of December. Klitschko will be there, and all being well, we'll be in a position to announce the date and venue for that fight immediately after.
The WBA also have ordered Shannon Briggs against Lucas Brown for the regular title. Did Gilberto Mendoza tell you what took so long and why it was just announced yesterday?
Well, there was a legal resolution with Lucas Brown. I believe they stripped him, and then Lucas Brown sued the WBA. It was all very messy. So that's really, I think, what's taken the bulk of the time, is to find out how the resolution would work in terms of the super title, which is Klitschko against Joshua, the regular title, who will fight for the regular title. Everyone's been trying to get that shot at Lucas Brown. It's very messy. And I think they wanted just to make sure they made the decision that meant that they wouldn't have any comebacks, they wouldn't have any legal repercussions, and I think that's why it's taken so long.
Where does this leave David Haye? Was he in the mix
hopefully
for this?
Fighting Tony Bellew.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he was in the mix. I think there was an issue with Shannon Briggs in terms of how he was moved in the ratings. I think they moved him, I think without reason, or he felt, and I think there was some kind of resolution for him as well. So David Haye misses out on Lucas Brown, but he's in a good position with the WBO to fight the winner of Parker against Ruiz, and I think that could be in April or May. And we're in talks to try and get the Bellew fight before that, and hopefully that can happen.
So coming back to Joshua, if we're just going to backtrack a little bit, you kind of teased us a few months ago with Parker, kind of nearly semi-climax with Klitschko.
Yeah.
We have wound up with Eric Molina. I'm going to ask you about a tweet you wrote that I'm sure has been pointed out to you after Molina fought Wilder. You pointed out that in Wilder, Molina's last fight, he'd fought Zambrano Love.
Knocked him out in 8 rounds.
Yeah, and I think the message seemed to be at the time you saying, look at sort of the level of opponent that Wilder's fighting at the time. This guy has just fought someone AJ fought in his last fight.
Yeah, it was more actually about the fact that AJ had knocked him out in 2 rounds, and this guy challenging for a world title took 8. So that
wasn't a dig at Molina.
No, it wasn't. Listen, Molina's a good fighter, and Molina's got a good record. He's coming off a big win against Adamek. He had a great fight with Deontay Wilder, went 9 rounds. The problem, probably, is the fact of the others that were talked up. And people come on to me yesterday and said, yeah, but do you think you should have just kept quiet about who you were talking to? We don't live in that kind of world. When you sit down and ask me on interviews, or Bernd Bonti says something to the media, I have to respond. And what I'm doing is I'm telling you what's happening. You can't have it both ways. You can't come to my office or my house, you personally, and expect me to give the viewers and the fans information about what's happening if you don't want to be told the truth or what's happening. Now, if a fight falls through, I'll tell you why it fell through. But people saying, well, the problem was you started talking about Klitschko. Well, the problem was we were negotiating a fight with Vladimir Klitschko, and people knew that. And it's my job to speak to the media about it, speak to people like you. And we live in a world, specifically across social media, where one of our probably strongest facets is the fact that we are interacting with the fans as much as we do. So, if you want me just to be quiet and not give the fans any updates about what is happening in the landscape of boxing, I can do that too. And then probably you'd have got Eric Molina and gone, fair enough. Because in my opinion, Eric Molina is a much tougher fight than Dominic Brazil. And this is a stronger card than June the 25th. And that did big numbers. So the response has been lukewarm. I said to you phoned me last night. He said, how's the response been? I said, probably somewhere between AJ against Brazil and Bellew Cleverly in the middle. I know because people wanted him to fight Vladimir Klitschko. He will fight him next if he beats Molina. Molina is a good fight, a solid test for him. I believe the toughest fight of his career to date.
Of all the options that you talked about available to Anthony Joshua after Klitschko, the best option seemed to be, and in many people's eyes, Pulev.
Mm-hmm. Pulev was the guy we wanted to fight, 100%. Pulev's in a position now, and we can go through the entire choice of the top 15 if you want, and I'll let you know.
Well, just the ones that were close to.
So let's talk about Pulev.
Yeah.
So Pulev was number 2 in the IBF, not mandatory. Okay. We offered him, I won't go through the numbers, a lot of money, an improved offer, another improved offer. Stalin wanted to make the fight. Pulev didn't want to make the fight. He wanted to fight in Sofia, defending his European title. I think he's fighting December the 3rd. Right? We went back. I think we made a 4th offer to him. During this time, people started getting win. And then we go to Joseph Parker. He's the mandatory. He's another one we looked at. The fact is, Parker's team really wanted to box on the undercard of the Joshua fight to build the fight and also gain some more experience. They probably would have taken the fight. When Klitschko started talking about vacating, they were in a position for the WBO to fight Andy Ruiz for the world title. Now, I know there's more money in fighting Anthony Joshua, but who do you rather fight for the world title, Anthony Joshua or Andy Ruiz? Simple. So Parker moves over to the WBO. Pulev now becomes the mandatory. Okay? So he's on 75-25 when the time comes. So he's not taking anything less than 75-25. Speak to Salins again. We'll improve our offer. Look, he wants to box in Sofia. So Pulev's out. He would be my ultimate choice. You go through the other guys in the IBF. Bremain Stavern. He's a guy we definitely wanted. He ended up having a final eliminator with Povetkin, which I have to take my hat off to Stavern. Ended up being a chunky purse bid for that fight, which he ended up taking. And the other one that came into the consideration towards the end was David Price as well. And it was really a toss-up between Price and Molina, with AJ's team really thinking the fight against Molina would give him more rounds and the right kind of preparation for a Vladimir Klitschko fight, rather than a David Price. And listen, Price can punch. It's still a dangerous fight, but I think many feel that that's a fight that would be over in a round or 2 rounds, and I don't think he'd really get any kind of credit off the back of that fight. But Price was that was a fight that was close to happening. Others. So
that was down to Joshua's team. Why?
I present the fights to Anthony Joshua and his training team, and collectively we'll make a decision. But ultimately, the decision comes from the fighter and the team. So they felt Joshua. We have a conversation with Joshua. You say, who can I fight? Him, whatever. Any of them, fine. That's what he says about everybody. But you can't leave a fighter to make those decisions. Speak to. That's why with the Klitschko decision, that was a decision that took probably 2 weeks. And ultimately, Anthony Joshua's instant reply was, yeah, fine, Klitschko, great. It was the trainers who took their time, come back and said, yes, we'll fight Klitschko now. As it happens, we'll fight him in March or April. So, it was a collective decision to fight Eric Molina. But ultimately, the training team and the fighter will have their input, and they felt like that it was a solid test for Vladimir Klitschko next.
What happened to Bryant Jennings? You mentioned him.
Bryant Jennings didn't want the fight. And it was more about preparation for him. And we were trying to get Bryant Jennings to have a fight to come off a win, because I don't think the IBF would have sanctioned coming off 2 losses. Obviously, Klitschko fight was a good fight, and Ortiz he got stopped by. So, but he wasn't interested in the fight without the preparation.
When you were trying to make Joshua Klitschko, obviously no one seemed to be moaning about that being a pay-per-view fight.
No, of course not.
Of course not. But when it goes from Klitschko to Molina, you understand why people would go, hang on a minute, was meant to be getting Joshua Klitschko, no problem playing a pay-per-view. Now it's Joshua Molina, and we're still having to pay pay-per-view. Are we in a case now where it's regardless of who Anthony Joshua fights, it will have to be pay-per-view?
Yeah, probably. But I don't think you're going to have that conversation for very long, because this is probably the last fight that Anthony Joshua will have where you would question whether it should be pay-per-view or not. With the card that's built underneath it, like if Joshua was fighting Klitschko, the card would be much, much thinner. That's just how it is. Klitschko's not going to want to spend £1 million on the undercard, and probably nor is Anthony Joshua either. So this card, where you do spend that kind of money, is because the main event is weaker than a Vladimir Klitschko fight. So the only thing that's affected is how many buyers it will do. If this fight was on a regular Sky Sports Saturday night fight night, with the money needed for everybody on the current card, you'd probably lose about £3 million. Okay, so it's not something I'm particularly looking at for December 10th. The argument might be, well, Joshua should take, a 10th or an 8th of what he's made. He's one of the biggest sports stars in the world. It doesn't work like that. So, I think Joshua will be pay-per-view for the rest of his career while he's winning. But this will probably be the last fight where that will be questioned. Moving forward, the undercards will probably be weaker when he's in those super fights. That's just how it's going to be. And obviously we've developed a card for December 10. I mean, I feel like December 10 is a stronger undercard than June the 25th in terms of the fights, the hype, the competitive fights. And I believe Molina is a tougher test than Brazil. So,
when I spoke to you about these pay-per-view cards before, I mean, we're talking maybe a year ago, you said that the main objective moving forward is to find the balance between a good undercard and, a very good main event to make it pay-per-view. So, when it's things like Golovkin Brook, Joshua Klitschko, I don't think no one batters an eyelid about the undercard.
Yeah, you say that, but don't forget, we still have an obligation to put a card on. And Sky, believe it or not, are saying to us, listen, and that was the same conversation with, it wasn't a case of, it's Eric Molina, oh, that's not pay-per-view. It's, okay, it's Eric Molina. Obviously, that's a weaker main event than a Vladimir Klitschko. Show us what is on the card. We go away, we say, you've got a world title eliminator between Chisora White. So, lovely, tasty, we like that. Scott Quigg's going to be in a world title eliminator. Good. Cal Yafai is going to be challenging for a world title against two-weight King Luis Concepcion. Wow. Luis Ortiz is on the card. Brilliant. Katy Taylor is going to be having her second fight. Wow. And we're going to kickstart the night with a British light heavyweight title fight between Jose Burton and Buglioni. Wow. That's a great card. So, but everything's different. It's all very well you saying, if it's a big fight, we don't care about the undercard. But then what happens if it's a one-round KO? And everyone goes, oh, what a joke. £16.95 and you had no undercard. Well, it was all right because Coogan told me we didn't need one. Doesn't
I'm
work.
not saying you don't need
No, but
one.
even if you look at
I'm saying when the
Brook,
fights are that big of that scale, Joshua Klitschko, like
Yeah.
we said, Brook Golovkin.
but I've just told you that.
I know.
So let's get one thing straight now. When there's a much bigger main event, the undercard will be weaker. Okay? If you're smart, like Anthony Joshua, even when it's a big main event, you still have to give value in the undercard. And Brook Golovkin's a good example. You know, you had Hall against Haskins world title, you had Charlie Edwards in a world title fight, you know, you had Callum Smith on a card as well. So you had a solid undercard on that fight. But of course, the main event is going, the bulk of the money is going to the main event. So here, you have a situation where we are spending a lot of money on the undercard for December 10th. And we need to, because obviously it's a pay-per-view card. So what you'll do, as you always do, is you will have the decision to make whether you want to watch the night of boxing on December 10th or you don't. It is our job to build a card that we believe is pay-per-view worthy, and we believe that if you watch it, you will receive value for money. We've had this conversation 1,000 times over the last 3 years, okay? And, you know, generally, and, you know, I don't know, tell me the last pay-per-view card we did where I think people turned around and weren't happy. I believe that was Bellew Cleverly. Quigg Frampton was disappointing, but everybody accepted that it was a pay-per-view fight. The event, the atmosphere, the arena, even the last 5 rounds, you know. What I think one of the letdowns on that card was I thought the undercard was poor, and that was reflected in the numbers. If you're bright enough, you know that a good undercard actually increases buys, so it pays for itself anyway. But some people have got a mentality that, no, we're not spending that on the undercard. It's like, well, if you do, it's only going to help increase buys. No. You know, and that's where Quigg Frampton suffered, because people involved weren't willing to spend the money on the undercard, and therefore the buys were poor. But all the buys since, obviously the Dillian White fight, great, huge buys. The Charles Martin fight, huge buys. The Brazil fight, huge buys. And you know, there seems to be like, people go, oh yeah, I've heard that the Joshua pay-per-view buys are disappointing and in decline. No, they're huge, huge. And will this be huge? Probably not. Will it be big? Yes, absolutely. But again, going back to Brook Golovkin, you know, big main event and a little bit of a smaller card. Charles Martin fight, I had to pay him a lot of money to come and challenge Joshua for the world title. Still, undercard was strong. Dominic Brazil, little bit of a weaker main event. Groves against Murray. Chris Eubank on the card as well. Lee Haskins. No, that was on the Charles Martin fight. Lee Selby. So this is exactly the same position. We have to make this a night of entertainment throughout. And I believe that Molina is a good solid test for a second defence of Anthony Joshua's world title. Yes, I can also understand why people hoped it would be Vladimir Klitschko. And Eric Molina is definitely not Vladimir Klitschko. Would we have had White Chisora on Klitschko against Joshua? Absolutely not.
When you look at sort of the cards from Joshua White, which I don't think no one moaned about that card before or after. You had Spike O'Sullivan against Chris Eubank, etc. When you look from there up until that, so in that year's time, in terms of your undercard, really, do you think it's moved forward or gone back or sort of
I think White against Joshua was one of those nights where the fights really clicked on the card. So, I mean, I can't, top of my head, you had Eubank against Spike O'Sullivan. You had Bellew Masternak.
Yeah.
You had Ryder Blackwell.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was the bulk of it. And all the fights were really good. You might have had Selby. No. Anyway. And the fights were really good, solid. I feel like this undercard, he's definitely as strong as the December 12th show, whether it will be as the fight's as good, might be 5 times better, might be 5 times worse. I can't control how a fight is going to play out. Sam Eggington and Frankie Gavin, most of the experts were saying this is going to be a stinker. It was fight of the year. So a lot of it, quite frankly, is just your luck. But if we put it off, it won't be luck. It'll just be pure skill. But the reality is, the undercard for this fight, break it down, is Derek Chisora against Dillian Whyte, eliminated for the WBC World Title. Kalya Fire against Lewis Conception, which is an absolutely fantastic fight. Go and watch Conception if you haven't already, against Quadras and all people like that. You see the odds with the bookmakers, it's basically a 50-50 fight. Burton against Buglioni, great fight. Quigg returning and will announce his opponent this week. It's a proper fight, by the way. You'll see that. It'll be a world title eliminator. Katy Taylor, Luis Ortiz, probably Callum Smith against Luke Blackledge in his final fight before the James DeGale winner. So I'm more than comfortable with this card, and I think it'll be a great night. But as usual, we have the same conversation, and it's not a case.
Yeah,
of
but why do we keep having the same conversation?
Because people don't. People, you get to a position where people don't really want to pay for this card. That's the.
So what does that tell? What does that tell you then?
Well, it tells me that we have to either produce a card that they do pay for. The problem is, Coogan, is I'm not saying if the buys were terrible, then we go on sale Thursday, we go on sale on Friday. Do you think this Anthony Joshua card is going to sell out in 10-20 minutes? Okay. If it does, then that really goes to show you where we're at. If it doesn't, and the orders we've had in already from fighters, people phoning up the office, can I book mine now? Can I book mine now? The demand's huge. So, this is this one of the weaker pay-per-views we've done? Possibly, yeah. But that's translated in the buys. If you do a strong pay-per-view, you're going to do, Klitschko Joshua, ranges between 700 and 1 million buys, right? Molina against Joshua probably does between 300 and 400,000 buys. Well, there you go. And that's the difference of success. Some aren't going to be just the same as, I don't know, Canelo. Canelo against Liam Smith, right? Don't know the exact numbers. 250,000. When he fought Cotto, treble that. So obviously the success of the event is based around the buys. Doesn't mean the model's going to change, it just means the fights are going to change. So this is your option on December 10th for a pay-per-view. It's your option to buy it. I believe it's going to be a great night of boxing. It's going to be a huge event. And I believe you're going to get value for money. If you don't believe that, you won't buy the card. But the card can't take place without pay-per-view unless we want to lose 2 or 3 million quid. And I don't really want to do that. So you tell me what the answer is. Go on.
Well, you know what you're talking about. I don't, do I?
Well, no, but you've got an opinion, haven't you? I mean, people. It's very difficult to have conversations with people. If you want to ask me, maybe some of the principal arguments will be, well, Anthony Joshua should take much less money. It's not going to. We have a situation where we have the biggest star in world boxing right now, in Anthony Joshua. Okay, so. And it's not Joshua saying, I want this, I want that. It's just, we have to deliver for that fighter. There's other fighters on the undercard who want extortionate money for being in these kind of fights. The rights fees from the broadcasters aren't there. We're delivering top-class Saturday night fight nights, world championship boxing. Luckily, having a broadcaster like Sky that's continuously backing boxing. But to do an Anthony Joshua fight with a card like this, unless you want to lose millions of pounds, this is the model it has to be on. I respect your opinion. If you would like to buy it, again, I think you're going to enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, who's going to get the blame? Probably me. Not a problem. That's what I'm here for. You say what you want about me. Don't give a monkeys. But that's what we're delivering. The option is up to you. I don't know what else to say. You know, you buy it, you like it, you don't like it. If you don't like it, maybe you don't come back again. That's the risk that we take as someone who provides a product. And we do that every time we create a show. You buy a ticket for our event, it's so important to me that you enjoy yourself and you get value for money. If you don't, you won't return. And that's exactly the same as a pay-per-view model as well. So, how many complaints have we had for the last 3 or 4 pay-per-views? Could probably count them on a couple of hands.
Do you know what you're saying there about, obviously, the pay-per-view, of course, this is probably going to be lower than previous Joshua.
I expect it to do similar numbers to Brazil, but we'll see, yeah.
Yeah. But
which, by the way, is significantly higher than Quick Frampton. So we just, you know, we've been spoilt by the numbers in the past probably year. Okay, in that you've got a situation where you've had Mayweather against Pacquiao, you've had Fury against Klitschko, you've had Joshua against Martin, you've had Joshua against White. These have all, even Joshua against Brazil, these have all done huge numbers. So whereas 200,000 or 250,000 pay-per-view buys used to be highly impressive, now that's deemed as a disappointment. If you think available to say HBO customers, Canelo is doing the same kind of numbers as a really disappointing performing pay-per-view in the UK with 11 million customers on Sky. You know, it's a strange comparison. And by the way, how much is it? And this is probably the difference. In America, to buy a pay-per-view is $60, 50 quid, something like that. And again, you can't sit there and go, it's only £16.95. That's not the point. People have to pay their Sky bills, and I understand, you know, the criticism. But again, it's an added extra. It's a big night that's been built, a big event that's been built, and this is the model to make that event happen. And people will always, you know, the old argument is, yeah, but could you do this event without pay-per-view? Could I pay Anthony Joshua and could I do Chisora White's, Quigg, Yafai? But no. I'm not a philanthropist. You know, we've got to run a proper business here. The only thing that will be a variation on this night is the number of buys. Does it do average or does it do well?
it does seem like we've gone over the same
We
thing.
do, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to, you know, always try and give you the answers. To think, and I understand. Don't get me wrong. I know you don't want to pay for it. Of course, you know, if I was a punter at home, I wouldn't want to pay for it. I'd want it free. But this is how it's going to work with Anthony Joshua and the big cards and the big nights. Moving forward, I don't think you will complain, because I think if it's Klitschko, who's going to complain? Absolutely no one. Yeah, if it's Deontay Wilder, if it's David Haye, who's going to complain? Absolutely no one. So, you know, but they may complain because the undercard might be weaker. And the danger with heavyweight boxing is, if it's all over in a round, everyone says, rubbish. I mean, look at Brazil. Went 7 rounds. No one expected it to go 7 rounds. And at the end of it, people went, oh, decent. Got some rounds, good fight, good undercard. Groves Murray was great. Fine. And the proof will be in the pudding on December 10. I don't know what's going to happen with Cal Yafai against Conception, Quigg in a world title eliminator, Luis Ortiz, Katy Taylor, Burton Buglioni, White Chisora. They could all be classics. And Josh comes out and has a 4 or 5 round tear up with Molina, and everyone turns around and goes, what a night! Wow! That's what we hope. Or it could be a stinker. I don't know. I don't believe it will. But that's sport. That's, you know, when you gear up for a Super Sunday and it's Man United against Liverpool, and it rocks up being a 0-0 draw, and Man United park a bus up, it's disappointing. They'll say, yeah, but we didn't pay $16.95 for that. I understand all of your arguments. But this is how it is, and it is purely up to you. You know, I don't know what else to say.
Can you explain why you didn't just make Ortiz and Joshua?
Well, Ortiz in a position where there was stuff going on with the WBA, firstly. He's boxing in Monaco, so he was never on the radar. That's a fight that can be built into a huge fight, right? And to do it again, 5 weeks notice, I don't think, I mean, I wouldn't want to give Ortiz the kind of money that he'd receive for that fight then, when he could get it probably 3 or 4 times. I mean, he's going to end up being the mandatory Luis Ortiz for the Klitschko-Joshua winner for the WBA. He's number 1. Okay, this is part of the resolution. He'll be the mandatory, probably next summer for those two. So, you know, again, I don't think Luis Ortiz is a fight that many are looking at the moment. And when it's the size of the fight that it is, other guys that can be built into big fights. Jarrell Miller, yeah, no one's ever heard of him over here, other than boxing hardcores. Good fight, good talker. You know, I speak to his promoters. Let's get him out there. Let's bring him to the UK. Let's get him boxing. Let's build that into a big fight. So, but again, if it's Jarrell Miller, 95% of the audience go, Jarrell Miller, who is he? But the fact is, if you knew him fight, if you knew his personality, you'd be quite pleased with that fight. You know, he's also in the WBO little fold. So the landscape's really messed up at the moment in heavyweight boxing. Good, but messed up as well, with people waiting on opportunities, waiting on promises.
Do you know, obviously, Joshua's, since obviously the Dylan White fight, we'll talk about Charles Martin, Brazil, all been at the O2, all sold out in double quick time. With Molina being in Manchester, do you anticipate it might not go as smoothly as those tickets sold?
Yeah, listen, maybe it doesn't sell out in 5 minutes. I don't know. There's more tickets. There's 5,000 more tickets. It's a bit cheaper in Manchester, the ticket prices that we put on, than in London.
Were you going down to £5,000 a ringside?
No, 800 quid. Only £800. But again, people say, £800. I can't believe this. They're £1,000 in London and they sell out. If I made them £2,000 in London, they would still sell out. So you can't win, can you? I mean, the laws of supply and demand tell you that if the demand is high, you increase the price. So we don't. We've actually gone cheaper in Manchester. But, you know, I think there is probably more, not more money in London, but there is a higher price for an entertainment ticket in London as opposed to Manchester. But, you know, I mean, you've got like Scott Quigg wants 1,000 tickets. Jose Burton wants 800 tickets. Caliafai wants 600. And we can't give them out because we need to provide for Fight Pass. We need to provide for general sale. We need to provide for StubHub, face value. We need to provide for the fighters for the undercard. So it's, you know, going on general sale on Friday will probably only be 10, 11, 12,000 tickets. The others are already gone. So, yeah, I think it will sell out. Whether it takes a day or 2 days, or I don't know. But tell me another event that sells out instantly. I mean, Fury against Klitschko sold half the arena with 2 or 3 weeks to go. No one, you know, even when we do big fights, it's only really Joshua and the mega fights that sell out instantly.
Just going back to this, the Vladimir Klitschko situation. The last time I spoke to you was after Eggington and Gavin.
Good news and bad news.
Good news and bad news.
Yeah.
At that point, what did you know? Did you know you knew about his injury then?
Yeah, I knew that. And listen, going back to the injury, it wasn't any, you know, it was one of them where I don't think he's going to be ready for December 10th. That's the injury. It wasn't like he's out till, you know, he could have done the fight in end of December maybe or early January. It's no good for us. So we decided with Bernd Bonte we're going to make this fight in March or possibly in April. We're still waiting for the WBA resolution, but the deal is agreed. So that was the good news. The bad news is it wasn't going to happen on December the 10th. So, again, we only received official confirmation from the WBA, and until you get that in black and white, you know, I trust Gilberto Mendoza, but still, he has to answer to a committee. There's a legal resolution as well. So, although I've been told for the last week or so that hopefully we'll get the nod for the super title, until I received the official resolution, which was last night, who knows? So that's what I knew then. And actually, to give you the rundown, on the Thursday of that week, we pretty much had a deal in place with Klitschko, and we were looking to announce on the Saturday, which was the Gavin Eggington fight. On the Friday, Bernd called me and said, listen, he's got a bit of a niggle in his calf. You know, we've got 6 weeks to go. I really think we should look to do this.
So 2 days before that, you were confident that was going to happen on December 10th?
Yeah. Thursday, we'd agreed to move forward. Friday, he picked up a niggle. Saturday, we expected that WBA resolution to come about 10 days ago. But as it happens, even if we couldn't have made the fight for the 10th. Forget the injury or no injury. That resolution came last night. So, and although you say, oh, we only announced Molina yesterday, the Molina fight, you know, we've been talking to Molina for 2 weeks, you know, getting him ready. He's been training, waiting for this fight. So he was geared up, ready to go. So, you know, part of me is really pleased that the Klitschko fight will happen next, because we get a proper build-up, we get a much bigger venue, we get a chance to make an event that will go down in history, rather than 6 weeks, quick, stick it in Manchester. You know?
So, obviously, this fight couldn't have moved forward without this WBA situation.
No, Klitschko wouldn't have taken the fight without... He said that multiple times. And that's why, you know, they were in talks with Lucas Brown to fight Klitschko, because there was a route where you knew the WBA regular title was available, but he didn't want to fight Joshua unless the WBA belt was on the line.
Did you delve into that a little bit more and find out what specifically about that WBA title it was?
Without going into too much of the contract was always best endeavours to secure the WBA title. But then Vladimir came on to Bernd and said, no, I want the WBA title on the line. So until we secured that title, the fight could not happen.
But
Sorry,
no, but you don't, or do you know why specifically?
No. I know that Vladimir has a very close relationship with Gilberto Mendoza. He thinks very highly and fondly of the WBA belt. It was a belt he wanted to win back and challenge for. And the IBO belt will also be on the line.
If he's to fight, Vladimir Klitschko's to fight in March or April, he would have been out the ring a year and a half. There's any part of you think...
Not quite a year and a half, but...
Well, it would have been a year and a half.
No, it wouldn't. Be a year and 4 months.
Why?
Well, because he fought in November, end of November.
Yeah.
December, January, February.
Well, March, April.
4 months, so...
Splitting hairs here,
Yeah.
HEARN. Does any part of you think, cynically, that there's a chance that that fight won't happen or you won't fight him?
I hope not. But, you know, if a fighter gets injured, then he gets injured. I mean, again, you know, talking about the injury for this fight, if he was pushed and we had a WBA resolution in hand, would he have taken the fight in December 10? Maybe. But it's worked out well for him, actually, that he can go into a March fight super fit and super ready. You know, again, I looked at the odds, everyone sees it as a pure 50-50 fight.
What are your options, venue-wise, for that?
I'm not going to tell you.
Why?
Because people try and disrupt your plans, fuck you up, like book things to block you. We've had it all with this, you know. And everyone's been, I mean, one day we'll sit down and we'll have a proper chat about what's happened around December 10th. Venues, and it's hilarious. But that's just the world of boxing and the business side of boxing that you have to deal with. So we're looking for a stadium fight.
Because I heard a rumour, I don't know if I should say this actually.
Or from me.
Not from you.
Go on then. If you haven't heard it from me, I don't mind you saying it.
Okay, I heard a rumour that it might not specifically be in this country.
It's almost certain to be in this country. Listen, if an offer comes up from another country or territory that produces more money than a huge stadium fight here, we'll certainly look at it. But I want this fight to be in Britain. And I think we can do 80,000 plus.
Do you think the heavyweight division's been a bit of a letdown of 2016 in certain ways?
Do you know, people, I've heard this all this week, 2016's been a disastrous year for boxing.
Disastrous.
Has it? Not for us, it hasn't. I mean, we've put on probably better fights than we did last year, more world champions in this country, more world championship boxing. Our numbers in the arena are higher than ever. Our numbers, TV ratings wise, are higher than ever. The pay-per-view numbers are higher than ever. So I think it's been a great year for boxing. course, there's fights that you wanted to happen that didn't happen. Fury Klitschko, Klitschko Joshua, Golovkin Canelo, a prime example. So, but that's boxing.
Eubank.
Yeah, but that's boxing. The big fights don't always happen. You know, what are these people, these fans, have they just realised that? It's always been the way. Eventually they happen. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you get a fight when you least expect it. Sometimes a fight that's been dragging on for years and years, it doesn't happen.
Just seems like the heavyweight division.
The heavyweight division is in a good place, believe it or not. I know it's been slow. This Tyson Fury thing's completely just thrown everything up in the air because people are waiting for shots. People are now waiting for eliminator shots. People are now thinking they might become mandatories. So no one's willing to make a quick decision and say, yeah, I'll take that opportunity there. People are saying, no, wait, because if you wait there, you might get a shot at WBO, or you might be a mandatory for the IBF, or this WBA resolution might throw something up for you. So now that the dust is starting to settle with the WBO, with the WBA, with the IBF, now with the WBC, Wilder will be back. 2017 will be a mega year for the heavyweights. So, you know.
How's your relationship with Joseph Parker now? Because I know you spoke about the plan to kind of build him here to see a potential fight with Anthony Joshua.
Good relationship with Dean Longren and Duco Events. They've done the right thing. They're fighting Andy Ruiz for the world title. Congratulations. Smart business. Easy fight.
But they're still open to a Joshua fight.
We can do the unification. These are the fights that's going to unravel in 2017. But there's no point me sitting here speaking them to you because, you know, if they don't happen, I'm just a lump of shit. So we've got to make them happen. But the first one you're going to get, all being well on December 10, Vladimir Klitschko will be in the crowd like this at December 10, or like this. The first one you're going to get is Joshua Klitschko, and that's coming at you in March or April next year.
Yeah, Eric Molina lost his first ever fight.
Yeah, I know.
As a pro.
Eric Molina is coming over for a press conference on Friday. You're going to meet him. You're going to like him. The UK fans, I've spoken to him at length. He's not messing around. He has a go. He can punch. But the UK fans don't really want to give him they've already made their mind up, haven't they?
So his defeats have been that first one we talked about.
Ariola like 4 years ago.
Ariola
which
and Wilder.
Don't look good on his CV, but he hurt Ariola, came in, had a shootout with him, got knocked out. The Wilder fight, he got knocked out in the 9th round, got off the floor a couple of times, showed plenty of arsehole, rocked Wilder twice in the fight, and he's coming off a win against Adamek in Poland, where he's travelled, knocked him spark out with a right hand. For me, this is a much tougher fight than Brazil.
You said it's a tougher fight than Brazil. I think Dylan White would beat Molina. I knew you were going to say that,
yeah. The argument is it a tough fight than Dylan White? Probably not, because mentally and emotionally that was a tough fight. Speak to Dylan White about Eric Molina.
Oh, well.
Good, because he told me in the office, unless he tells you Porky Pies, that's a good fight, that's a tough fight. Molina's game. He's decent. He's a good fighter. You know, the response in America, completely different to the response in the UK. This is Joshua's second defence of his world title. He's fighting the IBF Intercontinental Champion, number 8, WBC number 8. Geezer who gave Wilder a good fight. You know, let's see how good Joshua is. Maybe people just think Joshua is that good that no one is competition for him.
Do you want to know what I think personally, or not interested?
Not really. I don't think that matters at all. But go on.
I would prefer to have seen, out of the options you had, I'd rather have seen probably Price, if I'm being.
Yeah, I think I can get that. I just don't. I think with Price, it's like a lose-lose, because I believe it would have been all over in a round or two, and then it's like we just the abuse is just phenomenal. But listen, Price is dangerous. But Molina can punch. When Molina, I spoke to Molina and I said, you know, people saying that Price is dangerous to punch. He went, Price can't punch. He went, let me tell you something now. I hit a lot harder than David Price. Right? So you can ask him about that at the press conference. The difference is Price hasn't been in a big fight, right? I know he boxed Tony Thompson, but that, you know, he should be beating people like Tony. I want him to fight Tony Thompson now. That's the fight I think David Price should
He's
take.
definitely not going to be on this bill, is he?
He might be on the bill.
Oh, he could be.
He might be on the bill, yeah.
Thompson Price free.
I don't want to fight Tony Thompson.
No.
But I think that's the perfect fight for him. He beats him 100%. Get rid of the demons. Get rid of that part of the record, and move on. I feel like David Price needs that kind of fight. Do you know what I mean? And I rate him. I do. You know, and I think Coldwell's doing a great job with him. But I don't think he has any confidence, and I think he needs that kind of fight to find out. Maybe it's Dave Allen.
Could do Alan Price on.
Could do.
You got room for one more?
Not really. We've got 2 fights too many at the moment anyway.
Do you know what, right? I was thinking about this. Talking to, actually, me and James were in conference yesterday.
In what?
In conference.
What's that? Well, you're having
I was talking to someone on the phone.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking back 2 or 3 months when you put out this Land of the Giants idea,
Yeah.
and everyone was going mad over it. I was
Yeah.
thinking, God, you know, Millennium Stadium, Joshua Pulev,
Yeah.
Parker Price, blah, blah. And then it went from there, everyone was pleased with that, to the Klitschko thing, and
Yeah.
everyone was like, hang on a minute, forget about Land of the Giants, what
Yeah,
about
yeah,
Klitschko now? And I think most of your stick is coming off the back of the Klitschko thing not happening, because you're right, if you just announced Molina, that's the opponent, probably would have got...
No, you would have got a much better response, but I'm trying to be interactive. So, and I believed in my heart of hearts that Klitschko Joshua was 100% happening for December 10. So when I'm talking about it, do you think I'd give interviews on Sky Sports News going, oh, you're going to get some great news next week? If I was just thinking this fight's got no chance, I'm just going to say it anyway. No, because I'm trying to be smart, Alec. Get you geared up for a mega fight and build the hype. That's what I do. I'm a promoter. What do you want me to do? Just sit indoors and not say anything to anyone? It's my job to talk. If it backfires, it backfires. But I'm giving you the inside track. I'm giving you the truth about what's happening. And that's probably what's made us as successful as we are. The interaction with the fans. You know.
See, I know what you're saying is true. Like, I know for facts what you're saying about everything you say about the Klitschko situation with Joshua. I know it's true. But I can't really come out and go blah, 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 because people, like, hammer me and go, oh, you're just saying it.
But people genuinely think we never had any interest in fighting
No, that's
Klitschko.
complete bollocks.
And people say now, you won't fight Klitschko in March or April. Like, I don't spend 4, 5, 6 weeks of my life negotiating contracts, drafting contracts on the phone all hours for a laugh and like to actually just pretend that we're doing it. I don't understand that mindset. You think that we don't want to fight Vladimir Klitschko? What?
Did you do a poster?
Yeah.
That tells me that the fight was nearly there then.
Yeah. You've seen the poster.
No, I haven't.
I'll show you the poster. The poster's...
No, you haven't shown me the poster.
It's the same poster. I've shown it to you. I'm sure. I'm sure I went, look, there it is. I did at that do in London. We did with Bellew.
I really don't remember.
Really? Anyway, it's the same poster we're using for the fight in March or April.
Who will Ortiz fight in December?
I don't know.
If he comes through Alex Scott.
I don't know. You coming out to Monaco?
Yeah.
Great. Can't wait for that guy.
But it's not going to be like...
No, it'll probably be a 10-rounder.
No, but it won't be a UK opponent, will it?
Who could he fight? Dave Allen?
Dave Allen gets chucked.
Dave Allen's up for it. He texts me all the time and go, stick me in with Ortiz, I'll have that. That's what Dave Allen's like. You've got to love him. I know.
He would have it.
But then the argument is, you'd rather Ortiz, Dave Allen, than Ortiz against, not Jakob Gospic.
Do you want to go there?
You go there if you want.
Do you want to go there?
You go there.
All right. I've just been an observer over the last few days.
That was the funniest thing ever.
So, we don't have to name.
Okay.
But you was in a situation where another internet...
Poor man's Kugan Cassius.
No, that's not fair. But another internet boxing outlet was saying to you...
Basically...
Go on.
Someone's trolled an internet news reporter, right, pretending to be the journeyman, Jakob Gospic, or whatever his name is, right, who boxed Derek Chisora. He's got a nipple ring. He's a hilarious character, right? And someone set up a Twitter account pretending to be him. But it was all like, you could tell it was a fake account because it was all like, I am Jakob Gospic and I am ready for the world. And starts calling out all these heavyweights. Going, I will fight you, but I have Croatian heavyweight title first. And all this, right? So this guy has sent a message or DM'd him or something to this reporter and said, I want to expose Eddie Hearn for my fight with Derek Chisora. I only received €1,000 for the fight and was treated disgustingly. So this reporter has gone on and actually done an interview with this fake guy pretending to be this Croatian journeyman, right? And this journeyman's going, the hotel was terrible. I got €1,000. And then this guy's tweeted going, Jakob Gospic says he only received €1,000 to fight you. Hear it here or something like that. Exclusive interview. And I just went back and said, are you an idiot? Do you think anyone would fight Derek Chisora over 8 rounds for €1,000? And by the way, the account's not even real. And they come back to me and went, well, you've got your right of reply if you want to come on and do a video about it. And I'm like, what? Do a video about some bloke who's impersonating to be a Croatian journeyman who's claiming that I gave him €1,000 to fight Derek Chisora? So he's like, no, he's not. He's real. I've spoken to him. He's like, you might have spoken to the fake guy. Anyway, then this Gospic is going, I'm going live on the channel tonight to give the full rundown. And the bloke's going, big interview coming later with Jakob Gospic, love. And I'm thinking, it's not even him. Anyway, in the end, the guy comes out and just obviously says he was mucking about. It was hilarious.
This is why I'm not a fan of... We've never done a phone interview with someone we don't know, I don't believe. Do
you know what, though? I guess it's easy to do, isn't it?
No, but... Yeah, of course it is.
I know.
Because if
I could DM you from an account and go, I'm so-and-so, do you want to do a piece? And you phone him up. It's great. It's hilarious.
So, yeah, I'm not going to be too critical of that because it could happen. When you're doing them...
No, the only thing that gave me a hump was that this guy, who's obviously got fake information from a fake account, he's posting it up, going, exclusive, Eddie Hearn only paid him €1,000 to fight there. And I'm like, are you an idiot? And he was like, no, well, are you saying this isn't true? I'm like, I'm saying the bloke's not even real you're talking to. You've just spent an hour of your life doing an interview with. So he's like, well, you can come on the channel and reply. Well, reply? Reply what? About a troll who's not even Jakob Gospic. I think he got about $8,000 for that fight and it fucking done me up. Anyway, it was fun.
It's a shame the real Jakob Gospic didn't come out.
Let's get him on. Let's find him. Let's go to Croatia. Let's bring him over. Let's get his other nipple pissed.
But the person you're talking about held their hands up as they should, obviously, and just say they got it wrong. So one of them things that happens. Yeah. I'm sure you've been done over on a phone call before. You must have been.
No, I think you phoned me up once, didn't you? Yeah, who was you pretending to be?
I rang you up because you kept going, if you want to talk to me, phone the office.
Oh, that was right. Yeah.
So I pretended
on Twitter. So you phoned up and it's gone, some bloke said, that was it, they come through a reception when some guy said that you said on Twitter, if you got a problem, phone him up. So I went, yeah, put him through. All right, mate, yeah, I think your shows, right? I went to one of your shows the other day, it was right shit. I'm like, what shit about it, mate? And you're going, well, fights were shit. Seat was shit, view was shit, beer was shit. I'm going, mate, what fights were shit? I went on for about 20 minutes. I went, you know what, Coogan? Fuck off. Put the phone down.
It could happen to anyone. So, right, so you've got Chisora White tomorrow?
Yep, Chisora White press conference.
I'm not going to be there.
What is going to happen, James is. What is going to happen when they go head to head?
There's going to be no middle ground. It's either going to go
or not.
But I can't see it not.
No, it will. We just got to, if there's any movement, bang, straight in, jump, get them.
When you get the fence in. Get the fence in.
The fence. Do you know what? At the time, I thought the fence was just so bad. But actually, when I've seen some clips, it's
It's a good idea.
Quite like it from old Mr. Warren. Thought it was, yeah.
It was a good idea.
Yeah.
Did you watch the interview I did with Chunky,
Yeah, I
James
did.
DeGale?
Especially Jimmy Mack's interviewing me. You know.
You know.
Ed, because massive fight at the O2, you know. So I'm really trying to stop saying you know, because obviously I say it a lot.
I really noticed you said
I
it.
text James on Sunday, so I watched your interview with him, and he said, "Yeah, Eddie's cool, but he ain't really my friend." I was like, "Oh." So I texted him, said, "I hurt a little bit." He said, "Oh, you know, you know." And we had a good chat actually. I'm gonna go and see him this week, but.
I think he said you two were cool, but when you put it out there that if you're not my fighter, you can't give it that 100%, which is fair enough.
Oh,
And
just being honest.
That.
But that was just being honest. It doesn't change. I don't feel like he made a good decision. That's the honest truth of it. And you know, you can sit there and you can say, "Oh, I've done this," but the fact is, he had 2 fights in 20 months, and he's earned as much in those fights that he would make out of one pay-per-view fight. Okay. So, but that's nothing, like, that's over, it's done. It doesn't matter. You know, we had a good chat and we cleared the air. I'm going to go and see him this week. I want to work with James DeGale moving forward. I like James DeGale a lot. And I feel like the job that we did let people finally meet and learn about and like the real James DeGale. And that's what hurt so much, is that we had this position where we built it from, you know, the first fight at Wembley. Then he fought Paraban in Liverpool. Then he boxed Durrell. And he returned to the O2 a hero. And that's what frustrated me more than anything. That this move was made without real consultation or regard for my opinion or what we'd done and what we'd built. You know? I don't blame the move. You know, I just feel like it was the wrong move and the wrong decision. If we would have stayed here, if we would have built in arenas, we'd have been positioned big pay-per-view fights. The Jack fight, 1,000,000% would have been in London. He'd be earning a double what he's earning to fight him on January the 14th. But that's the past. That's done. You know, and I want to work with James DeGale because I think he's a great fighter. And more importantly, Callum Smith's going to be his mandatory. That's a big fight.
When do you anticipate that happening? Should he?
It has to happen. Both fighters will have to sign an agreement to say that the winner must negotiate immediately with Callum Smith or purse bids within 28 days for a fight within 90 days. So end of April or May if it's agreed. But that's a big fight.
It's a big fight. You
know, but again, James is, and say he's one of us. Like we're similar kind of, you know, we hang around with similar kind of people. We get on really, really well. In fact, when I went to Boston for the last fight, no, Washington, sorry, for his last fight, I turned up. We hadn't spoke since we had a row on the phone about Joshua tickets. Do you remember the whole thing? And when we turned up, we had a argument. We had a proper shout off at each other. I turned up. He was waiting to weigh in. It was obviously make him wait. So, fuck it. I said, fuck you. You ordered this. And it was a proper, you know. And after that, we sort of had a laugh, had a bit of food. And then straight back to getting on like we do. Get on really well. But, you know, what happened. And I don't know. Like, all I'm telling you is, contractually, we have one fight left. I hope we can work together. If we can't, we can't. And we remain friends. As I said, we are friends. But maybe not. But, you know, it was good. It was good to chat to him because we probably haven't sat down and talked through what happened. You know. And I know part of him, you know, I think he knows that perhaps it weren't the right decision. But he's got a big unification fight. And he can win that and, you know, he can be involved in some really big fights. But I've got a lot of time for James DeGale.
This is why I love IFL TV because
it's a bit like agony aunt, isn't
without that interview, it may have not clicked for you to think, do you know what? I'm going to send him a little
I watched
message.
it and I sort of thought, like, it didn't hurt, but it was like, no, I texted him. But my phone's out of battery, otherwise I'd read you the text. I was like, can't believe you said I wasn't your friend. And he's like, well, you don't want anything to do with me. I said, no, what happened, and, you know.
Here's some
I said,
tickets to Big City
yeah,
Dreams.
I know, yeah. So we're gonna have a bit of lunch this week and a chat and see where it takes us.
Right, okay. Well, listen, James will see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'll be in Belfast.
And then Joshua Molina.
What happened there? You come right
Joshua
out the swing.
Molina.
On Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monaco next week.
Monaco.
Stephen Smith and the new Jane McDonald. Really tough.
Sorry, I do want to ask you about this actually. Abraham.
Yeah.
Bit moody there.
You have to speak to the Sowlands.
Bit funny that. I feel for Martin Murray there.
Yeah. Well, he's actually got, I think, potentially a tougher fight against Dmitry Chudanov. I think it's going to be an absolute war. But Calla told me he's injured. I trust Calla. Other people said he's not injured. He's waiting on a final eliminator instead and didn't fancy the Murray fight. You'd have to ask Calla. I asked Calla, I said, look, is this moody? Because people are telling me it is. No, he's injured his elbow. So I have to trust Calla.
Monaco on the 12th. London on the 26th.
Yeah.
At Wembley Arena.
Mm-hmm.
Big City Dreams. Katy Taylor's debut.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then
December 10th.
December 10th done. What will be your first show back in 2017?
February. There's a few planned. I'm looking to do Hay Bellew in February. But I'm looking to also go to Hull actually. I want to do Campbell against Mendy rematch. I want to do Yafai defending his world title. And Eggington again and Gavin in Birmingham in February. I want to do Price. If Dillian White wins, I want to do Price against Dillian White in Liverpool. I would like to go to Belfast and do Ryan Burnett against Lee Haskins, or Ryan Burnett against Tapales, who's a WBA world champion. What else do I want to do? I want to do obviously Klitschko Joshua. I want to do Brooke Khan. I'm just thinking. I want to do Broner against Burns. I want to do Callum Smith against James DeGale. Well, why don't we do like a Christmas wish list?
Yeah, but nearer end of the year.
Yeah, I was joking because I did it once and only one of the 6 fights happened. So.
It's alright, maybe you'll have 2.
I'm trying. The only thing I can tell the fans is I'm working really hard. And I can't physically work any harder to try and deliver.
I know you are, Edward.
Thank you, mate. But if you knew what I was putting into it...
Maybe they wouldn't slag you off so much.
Yeah, but that's part and parcel. I've got 420,000 Twitter followers now. I much preferred it when I had about 5. Never got any stick.
Sorry, just before we end, Katy Taylor, the signing has gone down extremely well in Ireland and everywhere.
I'm excited. I'm really excited about it. I mean, there's huge interest from the broadcasters. Obviously, tickets are going well. Irish media is just phenomenal. When this girl is a legend over there. I'm really, really excited. I have no idea where this is going to take us. I really like Katy Taylor. I just, I said, she came here with Brian Peters and her mum, and we talked for 2 hours about boxing. And she's such a driven individual. I sort of thought, I got 2 daughters, 4 and 7. I thought, you know what? I'd love her to spend some time with them to teach them the disciplines that she learnt. Not to teach them boxing, but she's a fantastic role model. And I know everyone might go, oh, you talk about role models again, but she is. She lives and breathes competition and sport. And I felt invigorated after I had a meeting with Katy Taylor. Like boxing is, the business is a diseased business really. The sport is so pure, and when you deal with people like that, it sort of makes you remember why you got involved in the sport and what you love about boxing, rather than just becoming a bitter old promoter, which I always tell you. And I haven't done that yet, but sometimes I'll do something or I'll think something and I'll think, don't think like that, because that's how the others think. So it grabs you eventually. It's like a disease running through your body that makes you bitter and twisted. That's the boxing business. And unhappy.
It's a bit harsh on Barry, isn't it?
No, but he got out. My old man got out.
Yeah.
Once he smashed
Joking, Barry.
boxing, right, and then it started becoming a pain, horrible, sleepless nights, up all night on a phone, people trying to fuck you, excuse my French, you know, and that was without social media. My old man wouldn't have lasted half the time if there was social media. So the aim is to be involved in the sport for as long as you can without it ruining your life. And there has been times in the last few weeks where I'm thinking, this is not for me, mate. This is ruining time with my family. I'm stressed out. I want to knock everyone out. I don't want to fucking deal with him, and this is just bullshit. Why can't we just make fights? He don't want to fight him. He thinks he should be on much more money than the reality of what he should be on. He's pulled out injured when we know he ain't really injured. You know, it's like, no, I'm just saying. Yeah. But it's just, you know, I'm meeting Dillian White at 10 o'clock at night to do the Chisora deal when I should be at home. I'm having to bring Nando's into the office for him and his team. You know, it's full on. But I had a funny conversation with someone on Twitter the other day. I started saying, if you knew how hard I've been working over the last couple of weeks, and they started saying, what, harder than the bloke who has to go out on the site, the scaffolding, and be up on the top, you know, for 8 hours a day, freezing his nuts off. And every day they've been saying, like, drove to work this morning, saw a man digging a manhole in the freezing cold, but knew he wasn't working as hard as Eddie Hearn. You know what I mean?
Fair point.
There is a fair point, I suppose, but just to work hard, it doesn't just mean you have to, like, do manual labour.
No.
You can do things that stress you out, that make you spend time away from your family when you want to be with them, you know? So, but at the same time, it's difficult for me to say things like that.
Did you tell Katy Taylor about your previous thoughts on women's boxing?
What was that?
Oh, you weren't up for it a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah, I just said, no, yeah, but you know why? Because...
No market for it?
Yeah. So, it's not that I've not... You know, I think you've given a bit of a poor question there, Coogan. I've never sort of said, nah, women's boxing. I mean, you've spoken to promoters. I've seen it. Women's boxing? Nah.
Yeah, Frank Warren's openly said that.
Yeah,
it's not for him.
Yeah, but it's not... I enjoy watching it, but there's just been no market for it. The broadcasters haven't been interested in it. I think the boxing fans weren't educated enough, as they are now, to have been exposed to it like they have been through 2012 and through Rio. And Katy Taylor can fight. Forget women's boxing. She's entertaining as a fighter. Forget the sexes, women's, men. You know.
But wasn't the time to do it around after London 2012?
Maybe, but there still wasn't the same. You look at the landscape of sport, particularly on Sky. More women's cricket, netball. Obviously, women's tennis has always been big. You know, so there's more of a demand for women's sport. But I'm not really looking at this as, although it's women's boxing, I'm integrating it into a card. It's entertainment. It's boxing. She's entertaining. Forget that she's female. She may be more entertaining than the men to watch. But the first two, November 26th and the Joshua card, we've got to get it right on those cards. Got to be a good fight, good performance, then we've got a real chance.
Who will matchmake your women's fighters?
We've been talking about it in the office. We've been sent a list of like 12 girls at her weight that she could fight, and we've got to pick the right one. We've got to pick someone who comes to fight, that looks, the part, stylistically, because sometimes you watch the preliminary rounds in women's boxing, and it doesn't look great to watch. But once you improve the levels and the skill set, it's good to watch. And Katy Taylor is probably one of the most entertaining women fighters in the world to watch. And I believe she's going to go on and win world titles. And mate, let me tell you, she is huge in Ireland. Huge.
Yes, absolutely. She's to Ireland what you are to Brentwood.
But who laughs at their own joke?
She is phenomenally big. Like, I know.
She's...
My Irish friends have told me. I've known for ages.
Okay.
But you are big in Brentwood, aren't you?
Where are you big? I've noticed that when we're at shows now, you're getting mobbed. Aren't you?
Anyway.
Coogan.
I sent a tweet out the other day just because first show abroad, first overseas fighter, blah blah blah. So technically, all the
You said, just think about what Matchroom have done recently. Signed a women's fighter, signed an overseas fighter.
Yeah, but I was saying first. So abroad, obviously, I was excluding UK and Ireland.
Yeah.
So that's true, isn't it? Because you've obviously done what you've done in Ireland before. But aside from UK and Ireland, Monaco is your first.
Yeah, and it'll be the first of many. We're going to do a show in America next year.
And Luis Ortiz wasn't your first foreign import.
Gregor's Proxer.
Yeah.
That was my dad.
Darren, and he lived in Reading. So
no, I think it was Slough. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Slough, Reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Katy Taylor is definitely your first female signing.
Yes. Very excited.
It's going to be great. Going to get half of Ireland there.
No, but it's going to be, you got a lot of people to convince. I've seen the tweets. Women's boxing, you having a laugh? Shit, that is. So, you need people to have open minds about it. But honestly, watch her fight. Watch her on the pads. Watch her sparring. She can fight. She's entertaining. She's great to watch. And I'm really excited to see what we can deliver for her.
Right, Eddie Hearn, thank you very much. I think we've done a good solid hour.
Oh, we need to get some work done. See you soon, people.
Anything motivational you want to end with?
No, just listen. Keep smiling. I don't know.
Don't let pay-per-view ruin your life.
Don't let pay-per-view ruin your life. Buy it or don't buy it, but buy it. I mean, it's a good night of boxing. Some great fights on there. Yafai Conception is a great fight. Chisora White is going to be beautiful grudge match. Katy Taylor's on the card. Luis Ortiz, probably the most dangerous heavyweight in world boxing. He's on the card. And we're going to start the night with Burton against Buglioni. It's a great light heavyweight title. And Scott Quigg returns in an eliminator for the world featherweight title. Probably Callum Smith against Luke Blackfish. Maybe even David Price on there. Come on. It's not that bad. Let's go, champ. Let's go, champ. Let's go, champ!